year of Hijri, and it's an incident that really is something that we don't talk about enough, but because it happened on the 10th of Muharram, when it is around that time, it gives us a bit of an excuse to bring up this discussion. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his family is known as Ahlul Bayt, the people of the house. And the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam are people that we are commanded by Allah to love and to praise and to have that connection with. That is why in our Durood Ibrahim we say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. That we send salawat on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his family as well. And the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam are his wives, his children, grandchildren, his uncles, his aunts, and all of those that are believers. Now there is a distinctive difference between the Sunni view and the Shia view on this. The Shias do not consider the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to be from the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They only consider the children of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now we have, we say Ahlul Bayt, right? You hear about Ahlul Bayt all the time. So the Shias don't consider the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Ahlul Bayt. They also, certain wives, if not most of the wives, they consider them to be renegades and to be those who are hypocrites or those who transgressed against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wal'iyadu billah, some of the Shias, they believe that Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha did commit adultery, and when the Mahdi will come back, the Mahdi will excavate her from her grave, and the Mahdi will have her whipped 80 times. So they exclude, they really don't like Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. That's definitely one of the wives that they don't like at all. However, now you need to have evidence, right? That Ahl can refer to wife as well. Yes or no? The Quran says, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ says, hold on to me and hold on to the book of Allah and the Sunnah and itrata ahli bayti and my family, right? The Sunnah says, hold on to my family. In the Quran, in the hadith, we hear about Ahlul Bayt. So now the Shia say that the wives are excluded from Ahlul Bayt. Now how do we prove that the wives are included in Ahlul Bayt? You need evidence. The Quran. إِذْ يَقُولُ لِأَهْلِهِ أُمْكُثُوا إِنِّي آنَسْتُ نَارًا. Musa alayhi salam told who? His Ahl. Wait over here, I'm noticing fire. Who was he talking to? His wife. And multiple places in the Quran, Ahl is used for wife. So which is a very clear rebuttal of what the Shia point of view is. Nevertheless, in our tradition, by the way, the Sunnis and the Shias in the early days were not generally a theological group like they are today. Today you have varying differences in beliefs and opinions, and amongst the Shias you also have many layers and many categories of them. You have the Ithna Ashari, you have the Zaydis, you have the Alawis, you have the Buris, you have the Ismailis, you have the Agha Khanis. So you have various flavors amongst the Shias that creates different views and perspectives. Just the way in the Sunnis you also have various flavors as well. In the early days, they were more of a political organization, like the Democrat and the Republicans, right? So they stood behind, in the beginning, early days, against the Umayyads or Shi'atu Ali. This terminology was used quite often in the early days. But as time progressed, this became theological differences. And we're going to talk largely about what happens in Karbala, not too much about Shias themselves, but I just wanted to kind of lay some groundwork for you all. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a very deep attachment to his grandchildren, Hassan and Hussein radiallahu anhu. They were very young. They were about 7 and 5 and 6 years old when the Prophet ﷺ, passed away. And the Prophet ﷺ would at times be giving a khutbah, and he'd get down from the member if he saw his grandchildren, and then he'd grab them and then get back on the member and continue giving the khutbah. There was a time when the Prophet ﷺ was walking outside, and there was dates that were on the ground. If I could just request everyone to come forward as much as possible, so that the brothers who are coming later, they can kind of fit in. Same thing with the sisters. If I could just request the sisters to come in as much as possible, inshallah, bi'idhnillah. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he sees Hassan radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and there's a date that's in the ground and it's dirty, and Hassan radiallahu ta'ala anhu, you know how like we teach our kids, I don't know if you teach your kids this or not, but if food falls on the floor, what are you supposed to do? What's the sunnah? Say Bismillah, pick it up, blow it, and eat it, right? And one day, my nephew and nieces, they were in Walmart, and they were eating their fruit things, and Maher's little thing, popcorn, fell down on the ground. And he's so used to at home just grabbing it, saying Bismillah, blowing it and eating it, and he just grabbed his popcorn, and he picks it up and he says Bismillah, and he blows it and he eats it, and there's this like white woman that's standing there. She looks like she's like disgusting. But like we teach our children, that if you see something, don't waste food in that sense. And so Hassan radiallahu anhu sees the date on the ground, and he picks it up and he puts it in his mouth, and the Prophet ﷺ immediately comes and he begins to tap him and say, Hassan, spit it out. Why is he telling him to spit it out?
The seed, it's mud, like choke on it.
Okay.
He didn't say Bismillah.
Huh?
Didn't say Bismillah.
He didn't say Bismillah? Anyone know this hadith is in Bukhari? It was from the zakat wealth, the date that had fell down. And oh my child, zakat is haram on Ahlul Bayt. Like the stone he had to put on his heart. You ever seen a kid with a candy? And then when children are eating candy and stuff, we literally like to give them candy because it's adorable to see them eat. But to pull it out of your own kid's mouth, because Allah forbade it, it's a little kid. This kid, does it get sins? Does it get sins recorded? But when he came to the Prophet ﷺ, when we talk about the Battle of Karbala, it is true that there are people who have been oppressed and abused from a quantity perspective more than Hussein radiallahu. There's no doubt about that. There are people who have probably lost more and have been hurt more. The argument isn't about the quantity of how much blood was spilled. The discussion is on the quality of the blood that was spilled. The reason why this story or this incident is so sensitive to us is because of the quality of the blood of Hussein radiallahu ta'ala. Anyhow, Hassan and Hussein radiallahu ta'ala, one time they were inside the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and they were riding the back of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he was acting like a horse. And people came in and they saw the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and they said, Ya Rasulullah, how blessed are these riders, right? Like they have a ride, like a ride like you. And the Prophet ﷺ retorts and he says, no, the riders are really good too. They're very well. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had a very deep, and you hear a lot of hadith about his interactions with his grandchildren. You don't hear much about him and his children. And there's wisdom behind that. People are generally more softer and more playful with their grandchildren than they are with their children. So if you have kids, which some of you may see your parents being more playful with them, and then you're like, well, you didn't do all of that for us. Well, they're following the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. People are more softer with their grandchildren than they are with their own children. Now, after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not leave a political heir, which is very important, because the crux of the difference between the Sunnis and the Shias is that the Sunnis believe that political Islam is not a integral or a pillar of the faith, whereas the Shias believe it is. Why does that make a difference? The difference occurs is because after the Prophet ﷺ, is succession divine or is succession ijtihadi, meaning it is left for human decision? The Shias believe succession after Rasulullah ﷺ is divine. The Sunnis believe it is not divine. Now, I don't have time to go through all the evidences, but I had a friend one time, he was a Shia and around him, and he was, he started APSA, if you're familiar with what APSA is, Ahlul Bayt Student Association. So he's like one of those Shias that really reads and studies and knows their work. And he got into an accident, so I visited him one time in the hospital, and we were sitting down, and I brought this question up, and I said, did the Prophet ﷺ succeed in his mission, or did he fail in his mission? He said he was successful. I said, very good. I said, is succession after the Prophet ﷺ divine, or is it left to the human decision? He said, it's divine. I said, great. I said, how many imams were there? He said, there were 12 imams. I said, phenomenal. I said, out of the 12 imams, how many of them actually were khalifas? He said, one. And I said, so the Prophet failed in his mission, according to you, is because he came with the command, and that command was never successful. Out of the 12 imams, only Ali radiallahu anhu was a khalifa. The remainder 11 never became khalifas. Therefore, Allah mandated a command that never occurred to the final prophet. And he was like, that's a very good point. I said, let me ask you a second question. I said, what happened after the 12th imam went into hiding? I said, how did you select the 13th person to lead? Because, in Iran and stuff, you have the Ayatollah and stuff, and they're selected. He said, the humans, we choose. I said, great. So I said, basically the command came for 12 people, out of which it occurred with 1, 11 it didn't occur with, and then you went back to the original point, which is that the succession is not divine. Because the rest of the khalifas were not part of the 12 imams. That's a very good question. A very good point. So anyway, that's our crux of our difference. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu came, Umar radiallahu anhu came, Uthman. At the end of Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anhu's life, when the rebellions occurred, when the rebels came into Medina Munawwara, Uthman radiallahu anhu was about 82, 83 years old. And he had said, I am not going to spill blood in the sanctity of Medina Munawwara. I'm not going to be the first one. This is very key, is because this becomes a influence for Hussein radiallahu anhu later on. He says, I'm not going to spill blood inside Medina Munawwara, and I'm not going to do anything. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu and Uthman bin Affan are from the same tribe, right? They're from Banu Shayba, I believe, right? They're from the same tribe. And Hashim, the original progenitor, has according to some, a twin brother. And that twin brother is from the Shams. His name is Shams, right? Abd Shams. And him and Hashim are twins. And Abd Shams gives birth to this line that becomes Banu Umayyah later on. And Hashim gives birth to the line that becomes of the Prophet ﷺ and Ali radiallahu anhu, and so on and so forth. So now, Uthman bin Affan radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when this rebellion starts, Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, he has been a governor since the days of Umar bin al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. So he's really good. And not only is he really good, he's manning the Muslim frontier, the boundaries. So a person who is a governor in any city, that's great. But if you're a governor that's by the border city, you're constantly alert. Your military is really good. They're a hardened military. And if you've been at the job for 2 decades and you're at the forefront of Islam, that means you really know diplomacy and politics really well. Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu sends a band of thousands of people to Uthman radiallahu anhu. Uthman radiallahu anhu is the Khalifa. He says, absolutely not, they will not enter Medina. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu says, well, they will stand at the outskirts, they're waiting for your command. Lo and behold, the rebels, they run over the house of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. That night, Uthman radiallahu anhu was reading the Quran, and they denied him water. And he got out one day and he stood on his balcony and he said, "You are denying me water, whereas the water the whole of Madinatul Munawwara is drinking is from the dime that I had bought myself from Bir Roma. And now today that own water that I had given the whole Medina for decades to drink, now you are making me mahrum of that water." 82 years old, 83 years old. That night he goes to sleep. In his dream, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes and Nabi alayhi salatu wasallam says, "Uthman, fast tomorrow, for we will do iftar together in Jannah." Next day he is fasting. Lo and behold, they come, they scale the walls, and they stab Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu. His wife puts her hand, Atik I believe her name was, she puts her hand in front of him, and the hand gets chopped, and her fingers get chopped, and he begins to get stabbed. Even when his body was lifeless, they kept on stabbing his body. He was reading the Quran, and the blood of his fell upon a verse, last page, first juz, فَسَيَكْفِيكَهُمُ اللَّهُ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ, that Allah will soon be enough for them and take care of them. Allah is the one who hears, and Allah is the one who knows. When Genghis Khan infiltrated Baghdad, centuries later, almost 500 years later, or 400 years later, he said, make sure you wrap their Khalifa in a carpet and kill him so his blood doesn't drop on the ground. Because the last time their Khalifa's blood fell on the ground, there was a civil war and tens and thousands of people were killed. So the Khalifa of Baghdad was wrapped in a carpet and speared to death so his blood never fell to the ground. Anyhow, Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, after he passes away, Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu becomes the Khalifa. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, as he is the Khalifa, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he sees what the situation in Madinatul Munawwara was, so he later shifts his Khilafah to Kufa, to Iraq. Up until then, the seat of Khilafah was always Madinatul Munawwara. Now what happened is that the seat changes to Kufa. This is the first time that the seat of Khilafah changes to Kufa. Kufa is in Iraq. 2 civil wars happened. The Battle of Jamal and the Battle of Siffin. And these civil wars were so bad that everyone, all the Muslims prior to this, in all the battles combined, died less than in these 2 battles. That's how massive these 2 civil wars were. If we could just have all the brothers just shift down a little bit over here. Jazakallah. Thank you. Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he comes in, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he goes through these multiple battles in his lifetime, and some of them were with Sayyidina Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu was the son of one of the chiefs of Mecca known as Abu Sufyan. Abu Sufyan's daughter was married, Habiba, to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Muawiyah radiallahu anhu's sister is the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's a story of Fateh Makkah when Abu Sufyan came to visit, and he entered the house of his daughter, and he sits down, and she tells him, she says, "Get up and get off this bed." And he looks towards her and he says, "I'm your dad, why can't I sit here?" She says, "This is the bed of the Prophet ﷺ, and you are a najis mushrik." And he looks at her and he was like, "You got messed up, man. Since you became Muslim, you got messed up." But that was her love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anyhow, Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu and Ali radiallahu anhu come to a truce. After their truce, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu in Ramadan gets stabbed and he gets killed by by one of these people. His name is slipping my mind. Abu Abu Muljim, right? Abu Muljim. And Abu Muljim wasn't this person that was like some terrible Muslim or bad person. No, he was a very, very good worshipping believer, but extremism. Sometimes extremism where you start seeing everyone as wrong and everyone as bad and everyone as misguided, that's problematic. And that's what happened with Abu Muljim, and Abu Muljim in turn goes into and he assassinates Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu. After Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu passes away, Sayyidina Hassan radiallahu anhu takes claim to the Khilafah for about 6 months. And so does Muawiyah radiallahu anhu announce it. So never in the history of the Muslims did we have 2 Khalifas at one time. So both people announced and said that we are the Khalifas. Both people made that announcement. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu then goes and Sayyidina Hassan radiallahu ta'ala anhu, after 6 months, one time in the life of Hassan radiallahu anhu, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam told Sayyidina Hassan radiallahu anhu, where he said that this child of mine will be a means of bringing 2 great legions or nations of people together, 2 massive groups. This child will be a means of bringing them together. And Hassan radiallahu ta'ala anhu afterwards, he realizes that the Muslim Ummah is about to get into a battle and they're about to get into a war. So he decides and he says, I will abdicate the throne and I will let Muawiyah radiallahu anhu be the Khalifa, according to some narrations. He does it on condition that after Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, Hussein radiallahu anhu becomes the Khalifa. Now this isn't unanimous across every single historian and every single individual, but this is one perspective and one point of view. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu goes on and now he reigns up until the 60th Hijri. At this time, it's been a very long time. And now there's a question. Who should be the Khalifa? Should it be the most pious person? Or should the Khalifa be the most experienced individual? What's going to happen in the Ummah? If we don't keep a Khalifa, every few years when a Khalifa dies, someone else will stand up and say, I'm the new Khalifa. They'll have their policies, they'll try to remove the Khilafah. So he makes a very hard life decision. And he says, I'm going to make my son Yazid the next Khalifa. Now, when it comes to Yazid and Sayyidina Muawiyah, Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Hussein radiallahu anhu is way more meritorious than Yazid. There's no doubt about it. However, some people are of the view that Yazid is this complete evil person and terrible and bad person. However, academically, Yazid is what I like to call a questionable figure. Why? Most of the narrations of Karbala, of the Battle of Karbala, who do they come from? They come from a man by the name of Yahya ibn Lut, who was known as Abu Mikhnaf, who wasn't even born at the time of Karbala and wasn't even there. So when you hear all these dramatic, really like crazy stories, like 4K, 8K, hyper-realistic stories, these are churned out by people who were actually not even present in the battleground itself. That's number one. Number two, understand that the Muslim governance is large. You don't have cell phones, you don't have phones. Messages need to go from one person to the other individual. There is one hadith of there is one hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he says in Bukhari that the people who are going to just check up what's going on. The people who are going to there was the Prophet ﷺ was in the house of I believe Ayman radiallahu ta'ala anha, and he fell asleep and he woke up and he was smiling, and after a while he gets up and he's smiling. Ayman turns towards him and she says that, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, why are you smiling? Is everything okay? He said, I just saw a dream where there's a group of people in my ummah, they're riding the ocean like they're kings. And she says, Ya Rasulullah, do dua that I'm amongst them. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, goes to sleep again, and then he wakes up and he says that, I saw a dream where there are people riding the ocean like they are kings. She says, Ya Rasulullah, do dua that I'm amongst them. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, no, you're amongst the first one. And this was the group that landed in the Battle of Constantinople, and they arrived at the brinks of Constantinople. When she arrived there, she fell from her horse, her neck snapped, and she got buried over there. The person who was the host of the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Ayyub Ansari radiallahu anhu, he also got killed in that battle. He was about, if you've been to Turkey, how many of you guys have been to Turkey? If I could just have everyone move a little bit to the side so we can just clear out the front area. Inshallah. People can sit inside the mihrab too over there. Yeah, they can come in this area. So Abu Ayyub Ansari radiallahu anhu was about 96 years old when he fought in this battle. And he actually got killed. And when he got killed, he said, bury me as close as you can to the wall of Constantinople. And that is why his grave is at the wall of Constantinople. Who led his janazah? Yazid led his janazah, right? He was in that same flank that went in both times, in the first time and in the second time. And this is a group of people that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did dua for, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam prophesied that they would be from the people of Jannah. So he does have this one accolade that exists about him, and that's why it makes it more confusing to make a definitive decision regarding him. After Yazid assumes the Khilafah, after Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu passes away, now a lot of people began to question and to object to the Khilafat of Yazid. There were some Sahaba, senior Sahaba, they didn't like the fact that he was Khalifa. They felt that, he wasn't the right man for it. And Muawiyah radiallahu anhu genuinely made the decision regarding who should be the Khalifa based on the question of how do we keep this longevity going? How do we make sure that there isn't this constant break in Khilafah every few years? And different dynasties are trying to go, and that there has to be a continuation and there has to be a certain consistency that exists. How do we make sure that this thing takes place? And that's why he makes this tough decision that let the Khilafah run amongst the Umayyads and my children so that it is continuous. And that every few years we don't have a scenario where someone else gets up and they say, we want to be the Khalifa. Sayyidina Abdullah, in Madinatul Munawwara, now a call is given, I believe it was by Walid ibn Utbah, that you guys, everyone needs to come and now give bay'ah, and they need to accept that Yazid ibn Muawiyah is the Khalifa. And what would happen is that different governors would begin to go to and accept the bay'ah and the pledge from different people in different communities. Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu says, I'm not going to give bay'ah to Yazid. And so does the many of the other Sahaba. They also say that we are not going to give bay'ah to Yazid as well. And Sayyidina Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, who is at this point the most senior of all the companions, he becomes the person. Those who have mothers with children, they can go into the next door room, into our mommies and thing room as well, inshallah. If anyone has kids in the back or anything, they can utilize this room as well, inshallah. So now Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he begins to talk to the different companions, and there are letters that are coming from Iraq. There are letters that are coming from Iraq that, telling Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu, we need you and we're here to stand behind you and that we're going to support you. It's this room right here. And a bunch of these letters start coming. And these letters were so many that they could, there were massive bags of letters that had come to Madinatul Munawwara. And Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu now starts to tell the different companions, he says, I need to go. I need to, go to Kufa. And everyone is discouraging him. His relatives, Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anhu, Abdullah bin Abbas, they're all telling him. They're saying, don't go to Kufa. This is not a good idea. And this is, the people of Kufa are treacherous. They're making all of these claims right now, and they're not going to support you later on. And then one of them gives advice, and they said that send your cousin, Muslim ibn Aqil, to Kufa. Let him be your eyes and ears. Let him come back and tell you what the situation is, and let him come back and give you the 411 on what the reality of the scenario is. Muslim ibn Aqil goes over there, and he goes with a very few group of people to go and see what the situation in Kufa is. When Muslim ibn Aqil gets to Kufa, he sees that there is a lot of people that are standing here, and that they are there's a lot of people that are standing there, and Muslim that are coming to him, and that they are pledging allegiance to him. There's over 12,000 people that come to Kufa, and from these 12,000 people, they're all pledging. And now remember, each one of them are pledging in regards to other people too, from their people and from their tribes. And now you have a sizable group of people. So when Muslim ibn Aqil hears this, he goes and he sends a message back to Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu that come to Kufa, everyone is ready for you. And one of the things that the people said over there was that we've stopped praying our Jum'ahs. We're not praying our Jum'ahs anymore, and they consider that to be a political stance or a political situation. We can just have the brothers come in all the way so that the entrance is open. And if you can just make sure the kids, whoever with the families, they can just utilize this room, inshallah, from outside. Jazakallah. The shura members, if they can just circle around, just see. And they can just from outside. Jazakallah. Baha, if you can just circle from outside. Anyone who has the kids, they can just utilize that. So Aqil, and Muslim ibn Aqil, he is the cousin of Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Abu Talib had 4 kids. He had Talib, he had Aqil, he had Ja'far, and he had Ali. So Muslim ibn Aqil is the son of Aqil, the son of Abu Talib, and they are cousins of each other. They are cousins of each other, and they're also the brother-in-law to one another. Now, when these rumors began to occur, Nu'man ibn Bashir was the governor. Nu'man ibn Bashir was also from the younger Sahaba, Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in. And he's known as Sahibu Majid Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. There's a famous hadith of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that when the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was doing wudu, he put water in his mouth and he squirted it in the face of Nu'man ibn Bashir. So like people sprinkle. So he took the water and he squirted it into the face of Nu'man ibn Bashir radiallahu anhu. So Nu'man ibn Bashir was also a Sahabi, and he was very lax. He saw Muslim ibn Aqil and this commotion happening, and he didn't do anything about it. Yazid heard about it, and Yazid sends one of his most shrewd generals and military commanders to go and assess the situation. He sends Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. And by the way, the biggest culprit of this entire catastrophe is Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. He's the person that's the massive influencer. Yazid, he's still sitting in Damascus, so he's still far away from all of this that's happening. And Ubaydullah bin Ziyad is this young 28-year-old person that does assume a lot of things into his own control and into his own hand, and he is a person that does really cause a lot of this to transpire. Ubaydullah bin Ziyad enters Kufa with about a dozen or so people into Kufa, and he immediately goes to the governor's residence where Nu'man ibn Bashir radiallahu anhu lived, and he told him that he gave him the letter of Yazid that you are no longer the Khalifa, and now I am the Khalifa. You are no longer the governor, and now I am the governor. Ubaydullah bin Ziyad quietly, he doesn't have a massive army, and now he's assessing. He's looking around. Okay, what's the situation? Remember how many people did we say were at support? 12,000 people. And he begins to now reach out to the different tribes and to the different people and start to see, okay, what's the situation with Muslim ibn Aqil? What's the situation with the support that they have for Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu? And Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu was residing in the house of a man by the name of Hani ibn Urwa. And Hani ibn Urwa, outwardly, he was a loyalist to Banu Umayyah, to Yazid, but inwardly, he was very supportive of Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu anhu. And he really held a soft spot for him. Ubaydullah bin Ziyad is trying to figure out where is Muslim ibn Aqil staying? Who are the people? So he's very shrewd. So what does he do? He gets one of his 17 people, one of the people that's lesser known. He gives him money, and he says, go around and tell people that this is for the cause of Hussein, and that I can only give this into the hands of Hussein radiallahu ta'ala. So now they're going from home to home to home. Who can get this to Hussein? Well, who can get this to Muslim ibn Aqil? Who can get this to Muslim ibn Aqil? And it's going from place to person to person to person to person. Finally, it gets to the house of Hani ibn Urwa. And Hani ibn Urwa then says that I'll take this and I will transport this to Muslim ibn Aqil. That guy goes to the governor. When he gets to the governor, he tells the governor, he says, Hadi ibn Urwa is the person that knows the whereabouts of Muslim ibn Aqil. And the governor, Ubaydullah bin Ziyad, calls Hani, and he says, hey, you are the person that's going to be, that knows the whereabouts of Muslim ibn Aqil. He says, no, I'm a loyalist to you. I have nothing to do with Muslim ibn Aqil. He said, are you sure? He said, I'm telling you, I have no idea who the guy is. He calls the guy, he says, come out. That guy comes and he says, I'm the one that gave you the money, didn't I, for the cause? So now he gets busted. So then he gets beaten and he gets stabbed. And while this is happening, there's a whole group of people that are gathering around, the palace. And they began telling Ubaidullah bin Ziyad that, you know, give us Hani ibn Urwa. And Ubaidullah bin Ziyad sees that there's a massive commotion of people that are around, and he tells them, he starts telling one by one, he starts, you know, calling different tribes and different people, and he starts sending messages, starts giving money out to different people, and he starts having people's mothers and fathers go to them and start telling them that, you know, have your kids go back and move away and don't join this cause. Now, as time progressed, Hani ibn Ubaidullah bin Ziyad then comes out of his palace, and he goes and now he puts that he wants Muslim ibn Aqil. He wants Muslim ibn Aqil. Muslim ibn Aqil, out of this 12,000 people, only 4,000 people remain there. That are there that, you know, we're going to fight and we're going to be there and we're going to be the support of Muslim ibn Aqil. Out of those 4,000 people, when Muslim ibn Aqil begins going, by the time it became Asr Salah, only about 70 people remained. By the time of Maghrib Salah, when he comes, there's only about 30 people that remain with him. By the time it is Isha Salah, there is only about 10 people that are with him. Now, he begins walking, and one by one, each person begins to leave. If we could just request that have all the kids, they can come into this room over here. They can be in this room, please. You can go, Aisha. And now, Muslim ibn Aqil is left alone. He's got no support, nobody, and every single person has abandoned him. Muslim ibn Aqil then goes, and Muslim ibn Aqil goes to a house. He knocks on the door. When he knocks on the door of the house, there's an old lady. He says, "Can you give me some food?" She gives him some food. Now remember, they have a bounty for him. They're looking for him. And Muslim ibn Aqil now waits at the door. She says, "Okay, scram, you've gotten your food. What else do you want?" He says, "Look, I need a place to stay. I came to be Hussein radiallahu anhu's eyes and ears, and I've already sent a message to Makkah." Hussein radiallahu anhu and them, they went to Makkah afterwards. And the reason they went there was because Makkah was still not under the Umayyad influence as much. And Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when he was there, Muslim ibn Aqil, after meeting the 12,000 people, he sent a letter telling Hussein radiallahu anhu, "Come to Kufa, everyone is willing to fight with you." That time, when Muslim ibn Aqil, now the politics of Kufa completely changed. Ubaidullah bin Ziyad is governor, and he's looking out, and he's already called for reinforcements, and there's an army that is assuming outside of Kufa. Muslim ibn Aqil is hiding in this old woman's home, and her son comes back from the masjid. He sees a man in the house. He says, "Who is this man?" She says, "Look, I'm asking you, billah, don't tell anyone who this person is. This is Muslim ibn Aqil, and he is, he's supposed to be Hussein radiallahu anhu's representative." The guy goes to the palace of Ubaidullah bin Ziyad, and he goes and he says, "Muslim ibn Aqil is over here." Muslim ibn Aqil, he is taken and he is brought by the court of Ubaidullah bin Ziyad, and he is imprisoned over there, and he is taken by a man by the name of Ibn al-Ash'ath. And Ibn al-Ash'ath, on the 9th day of the Hijjah, on the day of Arafat, basically, has him held on top of the house, and he's about to throw him on top of off the hill to his death. And Muslim ibn Aqil says, do me one favor, as a prisoner, I have one last request. He said, what's your last request? He said that I sent a message to Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu to come to Kufa. He's on his way over here. He doesn't know that everyone has renegated and that he no longer has supporters over here. So he dies. This is the 9th of the Hijjah. Okay? Muslim ibn Aqil and Ibn al-Ash'ath, he's true to his word. He sends the message. But as he does send the message, a lot of his messages are being intercepted. Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu gets ready to go. Jabir radiallahu anhu, Abdullah bin Abbas, Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anhu, all of them are saying, don't go. Hassan radiallahu anhu's children, Muslim bin Aqil's children, Ja'far bin Abi Talib's kid, all of these together with Hussein radiallahu anhu became a total of 100. He had a stepbrother by the name of Muhammad ibn Hanafiya. And Muhammad ibn Hanafiya was so vehemently against him that he even took his kids and he said, you're not going. This seems like a really bad idea. Some of the Sahaba went to him and they said that, Hussein, look, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that the people of Kufa, they killed your father, they betrayed your brother, and they have no loyalty inside them. Don't go over there. Hussein says, it's my responsibility. The Ummah is calling me. And just as much of a bad idea it seems, there's going to be a lot of supporters there. And Hussein begins to advance. And he meets and when he arrives at a place, Karbala is like this desert area right outside of Kufa. So it's right next to Kufa. One time Rasulullah saw a dream. And he said, Jibreel brought me this dirt. And this dirt was mixed with blood. And that this will be a place basically of his grandchild being butchered. So the Rasulullah saw that area. If you ever notice, the Shias, they pray on a rock.
Yeah.
They pray on a baked stone from Karbala. Generally. If not, they can pray on any earth. They actually believe you can't pray on carpet. You have to pray on something that is, from the essence of the earth. When Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu arrives over there, Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he arrives at the field of Karbala. Ubaidullah bin Ziyad is sitting inside his governor's palace, and he sends Sa'ad ibn Umar bin Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, the son of Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, who has an army with him. He sends him to Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu anhu. And Hussein radiallahu anhu is around a group of his 100 family members. They're by the Euphrates River. And Umar bin Sa'ad says that now Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, right when he's at Karbala, he gets the message and the notification. And the notification that he gets is the people of Karbala are not here to support you. Or the people of Kufa are not here to support you. They're not with you. Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu tells Umar bin Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, he says that, look, I'll give you one of three choices. Number one, let me go back. I obviously came for something, and I was told that I would have the support, and I don't have the support. Let me go back. Number two is, let me go to Yazid and put my hand into the hands of Yazid and let me give bay'ah to him. Or number three, let me go to the outskirts of the Muslim empire and live off my days over there as a person who, away from society and away from everything. Ubaydullah bin Ziyad denies all the requests. He says, no, none of them. You need to go to Ubaydullah bin Ziyad's court, and you need to go and pledge allegiance to him yourself. Hussein radiallahu anhu denies that. He declines that opportunity, and he says, this is unacceptable to me. I'm not going to do this, because he wasn't going to let this person who is not representing the Khalifa, doesn't have the authority, get away with this abuse. See, Hussein radiallahu anhu was willing to meet Yazid, and because of that, there has to be something of some level of correlation between them, that he was still okay with going. Anyways, the siege begins on the 3rd of Muharram, and there are 4,000 people from Ubaydullah bin Ziyad's army, and there are 70 people from Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu's army. And they denied them. It didn't last for 40 days. It lasted for about a week. And in this time, Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu, his family is there, and his supporters, there are about 100 of them, and they're all sieged. And now nobody wants to be the person that is going to put the decisive killing blow on Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu, with his family members, one of his nephews, Ali ibn Hussein, he says that my father, or Ali Akbar, his sons, Ali Akbar, he says, my father, let me go first into the battlefield, because I can't stand that I see you die in front of me. I can't stand this. So let me go first. So Ali Akbar goes, and he gets killed. And one after another, different relatives of Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu anhu began to get slaughtered. The only survivors is one of his kid by the name of Zainab, and another of his kids, Ali ibn Hussein, which is known as Zain al-Abidin. He was sick. But Zainab, the earrings and the jewelries she had in her ears, they were yanked out, and she became bloody. And now, there's a lot of gruesome details about what happened in different parts of the battle, but as I mentioned, that a lot of it is narrated by Abu Mikhnaf, and Abu Mikhnaf was not even present. But some of the things that we do know that happened was that they didn't drink water for a long time. Hussein radiallahu anhu didn't beg for the water. It wasn't that he was begging to drink the water. He is too honorable and a man of too much integrity to go out and beg to drink water. So now, Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he has one of his kids that was playing in his arms, and an arrow comes, and an arrow pierces his kid, and the kid passes away in his arms, and he turns to Allah and he says, Ya Allah, you are the just one. You are witnessing what is transpiring between me and this qawm al-dhalimeen. Oh my Allah, you are the judge, and you are the person who is the one who distinguishes between us. Afterwards, as I mentioned, Hussein radiallahu anhu took out his sword, and he began running through the different ranks, and each person is moving away from Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu anhu. They don't want to be the person that attacks and kills Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu anhu. Finally, there's a very ruthless warrior. His name is Shimr. He takes a sword and he stabs and he kills Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu anhu. And not only does he kill Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu anhu, he chops the head of Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu anhu and puts it on a silver platter and has it sent to the governor's mansion the governor's place to Ubaidullah bin Ziyad, and he has the body of Hussein radiallahu ta'ala who trampled with horses. Afterwards, the Zainab, the daughter of Hussein radiallahu anhu, she turns and she says, wa Muhammada, hada Hussein, mu'affar bis-sahra, muzammil bid-dima. Oh Muhammad, look at your Hussein. How beautiful does he look? Today he's wearing a garment, he's wearing clothes that are red, made out of his own blood. That he's been butchered into pieces, and that this has and he has been put over here. When the head came to Ubaidullah bin Ziyad was poking it, and he was prodding it. And the ajib thing is that a few years later, a rebellion happens in the ranks of Ubaidullah bin Ziyad by Mukhtar al-Thaqafi. And the head of Ubaidullah bin Ziyad is chopped off. And his head is brought into the court. And when his head is brought into a court, people were astounded. It was because a snake came and a snake entered the head of Ubaidullah bin Ziyad and rested inside there. Anyhow, we have a few minutes till Maghrib. In conclusion, few things. Number one, the legacy of Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu anhu is not about suicide, or it's not about doing something where there's all losses. It's about standing up for the truth and not worrying about the price. Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu did not get visible victory. He did not see visible success. But he had success in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because he stood up for injustice. And the lesson we get out of Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu's life is that in our life, a believer is the one who stands up for justice. There's a famous Urdu poem, right? That, oh people of Kufa, I didn't come on my own will, but I was summoned here by you. Life is full of betrayal. Life is full of people who are going to say that they will stand with you. But if people could leave the side of the grandson of the Prophet ﷺ, who are you and me? We have a few minutes left till Maghrib Adhan. I just wanted to announce a few programs we have. We have the Fard al-Ain program. That's a 1-year long weekend and weekday evening program where we will have different classes. I believe it's important for every person to take these courses and to take these classes. You'll learn different Arabic. You'll learn a lot of essentials of everything. It's a 1-year long course. And you can also take these courses by itself. We also have courses for our middle school and high schooler kids for Saturdays, the seminary that we have over here. And we also have a weekend Arabic intensive and an Arabic program as well. Before we start getting ready for Salah, does anyone have any questions? Yes, no? On this topic or any topic, going once?
Who fought the third Khalifa?
Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anhu?
Yes. Who were the people who jumped over the wall?
These were the Khawarij. There was a group that had rebelled, and they were known as the Khawarij. From there was a group that had climbed the...
And the same Khawarij who killed Mulana.
Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and so on and so forth. Yeah. A lot of them were known as the Khawarij. Okay, so inshallah, if you're interested in any of the programs, you can just copy it with your QR code. The fiqh classes are going to be very interesting. We're going to do a lot of contemporary fiqh as well, with a lot of the differences of the madahib. For example, rulings like, can you do wudu with contacts in? What if you have an extra arm? So all of those strange rulings, inshallah, we'll cover them as well.
This story that you just mentioned right now, what was the role of Yazid bin Muawiyah?
Yazid bin Muawiyah does have a problem where he did not punish Ubaidullah bin Ziyad or any of those people in those ranks. While he was not the specific individual that carried out those decisions, and in the Shias, based on the narrations of Abu Mikhnaf, he is painted as the person who has made those decisions. But the reality was he wasn't, because it's not even possible to get a message that far to Damascus and back and forth in the communication of Hussein radiallahu ta'ala.
was the only hadith like just from that one person, or like did we have-
Majority of the narrations was from Abu Mikhnaf.
Okay.
Majority of the historical, the very detailed stuff is from Abu Mikhnaf. And the reality is that most people were not present, or they did not document. If they did, they were the people that were attacking her synagogue.
Right. No, but so like, who are the people that was like the ones that like are more authentic, or they?
The narrations that were narrated by Zainab or Zain al-Abidin, but again, Zain al-Abidin was sick. He was inside the tent. He was much younger as well. Inshallah. Okay. Subhanakallah bihamdik wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. If I can have the sisters exit from here, and they'll go into the lounge, inshallah, and they'll pray the salah in the lounge. After you pray salah in the lounge, once you're done with your sunnahs, you will exit the building and take a left. The sisters will be eating in the next door building, inshallah. So once the sisters can go, we can move the divider back for the brothers to extend into the prayer area, inshallah.
I have one question.
After, inshallah. If we can just have all the sisters, please head to the next door so that we can have the brothers push back, inshallah.